we need to have a talk. We need to have a very serious talk about whatever the hell is happening over at Wizards of the Coast. I don't want to be that guy, and you know that guy, who only makes content about alarmism, about how horrible Wizards of the Coast is doing and how the company is failing and blah, 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 blah. I never want to become that channel. But there is something that you and I really, really need to figure out. What the hell is going on with Modern Horizons 3's prices? I seriously would like to know, what in the world is going on here? So, if we look at the commander deck prices for everything, we see that the Creative Energy deck, which we have the deck list for, is at $48. The Jund Graveyard Recursion deck is $52, and the Simic Landfall copies deck is $55. Now, all of these prices are far too expensive for a precon. I think precons should be $40 maximum. I actually really liked back when precons were $20 for the 3 sets we actually got those precons for. But that's besides the point. The point that I'm confused about right now is what in the actual viral fuck is going on with that Eldrazi price. $142, and we don't even have the entire deck list to know what the thing's even going to be worth in total. Now, we know at least 84 cards of the deck list, and we'll know the full deck list soon, so maybe this video will age poorly, and there's going to be something that magically justifies a $150 precon existing. But I don't see that happening. I really do not see that happening. Looking at the precon itself, we've got under $1 chaff, lots and lots of under $1 chaff, and then we hit a Herald's Horn, a $3 card, a Forsaken Monument, a $5 card, whoop-de-fuck, and then we've got an Eldrazi Monument, a $10 card that only maintains its price because of a combination of lack of printings and the popularity of Eldrazi. Then when we go to our creatures, the only creatures that are worth any real amount of money are the Morphon here and the Ozlask, which the price on the Ozlask is fake, by the way. $30 for a card that does not yet exist and is not currently in anybody's hands. That's not a real card price. That's never a real card price. That's a speculative price at best. But don't worry, we can pre-sale the commander decks for stupidly high prices. And you might be thinking, this is a TCG player problem, right? This is a TCG player problem. Well, it's not just a TCG player problem, because remember, TCG Player isn't a shop. It is a billion shops in a trench coat. And for some reason, we can see that the price from March 1st was $70. Again, for some fucking reason. I don't understand why it was that to begin with, but it's been slowly climbing up. It peaked at $170 just earlier this month, and then it dropped back down again. I don't see how these pre-sale prices have been going for as much as they are, but it's every single shop seems to be doing this. The LGS, Trademark, Phantom Itch, Banana Stand, Prodigy Games. I'm not trying to name these to name and shame, but something about Magic the Gathering players and Eldrazi, it's like between the vendors, the LGSs, Wizards of the Coast, and the player base, when Eldrazi are concerned, somehow everybody's cognitive functions decline. Because if we look at the other Eldrazi deck that came out literally last year, this is what an unopened version of that deck is going for as well. I was lucky to find a copy of this deck for about $75 at a shop that only got away with selling it for $75 because they were not a vendor that typically stocked Magic singles or anything. They just sold only precons, basically. Precons and booster boxes. And they sold all the precons for Commander Masters at the same price, which meant that things like Planeswalker Party, which are going for like $30 now, were also $75. That's how they were equalizing the prices. Why did they have to do that in the first place? Why was anybody having to do that for this deck? Zuladok's a powerful commander, but there's not a damn thing that actually justified $157 for this. Do you know what you can do? with the $150 that both of these Commander precons seem to be asking for you? Well, one, for half that price, you can buy damn near every single in these boxes. You can buy damn near every single in these boxes and build the decks, just that way. Also, another fun thing you can do with $160 is you can get a used Nintendo Switch. And that's a perfectly viable game system. You might even be able to find some games with it. You might be able to go to eBay and get an old N64 with a collection of games people are getting rid of that you'll be able to play and have hours and hours and hours of fun with your friends for years. There's all kinds of things you could spend $150 on, but apparently a pre-constructed deck where 30% of it at the very least is going to be gutted away anyway for other upgrades. Somehow this is what this is. And again, it's not just a TCG player problem. It's not just a TCG player problem. If you look at other vendors as well, this vendor is going for $139 here for some reason. This vendor is going for $150 for some reason. It's every single fucking vendor. And again, if we look at the deck, what's Morphon going for? Usually $10. Cool. Then we have this card that doesn't exist, doesn't even have an actual price yet, but we're going to pretend it's $30, despite there being zero supply or demand to have any... There are no market forces for a thing that doesn't exist yet. Then we look at the enchantments. $1 enchantment, $1 enchantment, $1 enchantment. Ooh, an Eldrazi conscription, which its price will go down as well after this deck sells like hotcakes, because again, somehow, when Eldrazi are concerned, the cognitive functions of everybody together all at once goes on the decline. And I don't understand why that is. Let's see, in the untagged instance, we've got Kozilek's Return. That's $1. Okay, cool. None of the instants are worth the $150 the deck is asking for. What about the land base? Well, we have an Eldrazi Temple. That's $10. Cool, but that price is going to go down as well once this deck comes into print and the supply side of economics kicks in and starts doing something. But if we look at the other things in here, it's got a full set of Pain lands. I guess that's cool. I mean, I'm happy it's got a full set of Pain lands. It's about time that a WUBRG precon gets printed with a full set of Pain lands. Are we gonna also have things like the Tango lands in here? Well, no, because there's like one of each basic in this set of lands here, and this isn't even necessarily the finalized version of this deck list. We're still missing 16 cards before it's complete, but as it stands right now, there is not a damn thing in here that makes this deck list worth that much money. There isn't. You can buy full-ass upgrades for your house, new microwave, all kinds of things that you need. Hell, for a lot of Magic the Gathering players, you know what you could buy with this money? The $170 that you apparently somehow have for a Eldrazi precon, which, again, you're going to upgrade like 30% of it anyway, so I don't know why you're spending this kind of money anyway. But if you are one of these people who have $170 to spend on this, and you are a Magic the Gathering player, then guess what? I better 100% of the time when you are at an LGS, I better not be able to smell you. I better not be able to smell jack shit about you. Because if you can spend $170 on this Eldrazi precon, which is magically worth that much, I guess, then you can afford $1 for Speed Stick and $2 for soap. There is no world in which you should not be able to. So I would like to reiterate, if you are a Magic the Gathering player, and you are looking at this precon, and the markup for the precon is $150, don't fucking buy it. I don't care how just hard down your LGS is. If you find this precon for anything over $60, the price of a brand new video game, then do not spend that money. Go do something else with that money. That every other precon, you can buy one of every other precon for apparently the combined total of the price of this one precon, and it's coming out in the same wave. The amount of supply for this precon will be identical to the amount of supply for every other precon, because that's how these packs work. Because it is a pack of 4 decks where you hit each and every one. There are, luckily, some vendors, of which I will not name because I am not here to be the person that says, aha, this one is doing the good, because I don't know what else that LGS may or may not be doing. But there are some vendors that actually are selling all of the precons for about $200. And while that's about $20 more than I think all these precons combined are worth, that is still at least reasonable enough, because then all the precons are about $50. That's how much you're going to spend for the other 3 precons if you get them. And the Eldrazi precon now becomes a $50 precon instead of somehow one fucking $50 precon. I can't keep on... I don't know how I can keep on, like, harping on this. The prices for everything Modern Horizons 3 baffle the fuck out of me. Modern Horizons was an expensive set at about $7 or $8 per booster pack, and then Modern Horizons 2 got a little more expensive at about $8 or $9 per booster pack, and Modern Horizons 3 seems to want it wants your firstborn and also your left testicle so that you can buy packs of this stuff, so that you can buy precons from this set, and somehow, as a modern set, somehow, magically, this set still doesn't have any entry point for a modern player. How is this set that is apparently worth 2 to 3 times as much as other sets, I guess because it's being printed with special cocaine-infused ink? How is this worth the money going in? The ink is the same, the price to make the cardboard is the same, the time it takes for research and development is the same. How are the prices justified here? And the answer is they're not. There's going to be somebody in here who's going to be the biggest WotC bootlegger of all time, and they are going to be the person that tells me, well, actually, the prices are justified because if you realize there's a lot of reprints in here that people really want, and, you know, actually, the price is partially determined by the players here. Yeah, I get it. Again, when it comes to stuff like Eldrazi, the single brain cell that the Magic the Gathering community seems to share doesn't function at full capacity. I don't know why these prices are what they are. I don't know how they can be justified for that. And again, this is a set that needs to justify itself, and it will, because it will sell like hotcakes, because it's a Modern Horizons set. But it's a set that needs to justify its existence not just to Commander players, but also to Modern players. And the problem with Modern, the biggest issue with Modern right now, is the price of Modern and the onboarding process for Modern. The fact that there is not an effective onboarding process for Modern, and the price for Modern is too high. And I do remember the very, very special people in my comment section who I adore, and I am very thankful that you've spent the time watching my videos, even when it's something negative like this. I appreciate the time you spend watching me more than you know. But for the people that tell me that the entry point for Modern is actually less than $100, you are wrong. Just having a singular deck, Mono Red Burn, that doesn't function as well as Boros Burn, the actual deck that actually manages to function well in the Modern format, is not actually entering you into the Modern format on a budget. It is letting you play cards with other people, and most of the time simply lose. Not for lack of skill, but for lack of availability of cardboard. Decks for the Modern format right now are about $800 to $1,300. And I can support this with data. I can go straight to mtggoldfish.com, and I can go to the Modern metagame, and outside of the wonderful work that Saffron Olive has done in creating budget decks for people in the bottom section of MTG Goldfish, Living End, $702. Rakdos Scam, $1,200. Yawgmoth, $900. And apparently, my internet screwing up because I'm on mobile at the moment. Amulet Titan, $900. Domain Zoo, $831. 5-color Omnath, $1,300. I have to ask you, and this is as somebody who owns Hardened Scales, which is, as of right now, $921. To play Hardened Scales in the modern format, I had to piece it together one card at a time, getting an Urza's Saga here and Inkmoth Nexus there, until I was finally able to play the deck after a year of working up. And you know what? It felt amazing finally getting that deck together. But you know what? There's this funny thing about human psychology. We have two big issues as human beings. We have a sunk cost fallacy that all of us tend to fall for, which is that the more time we have spent, the more money we have spent into something, the more we should spend, the more justified we are in being there. We should spend more time in this thing that we have spent more money on, and we should enjoy it more because we've spent more money on it. This is a fallacy. No amount of time or money spent in something makes it worth it. If you are getting $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 worth of enjoyment out of that cardboard, I don't think you are. You'd be getting the same amount of enjoyment out of Modern if every deck was $100 as you do with the decks being $1,300 or $1,400. Modern has a serious onboarding problem. We apparently even have commander decks that are 150 some odd dollars, and there's going to be people who do the whole, well, actually, you should vote with your wallet. If you vote with your wallet, then you will be doing your part to make sure the wheels of capitalism turn. I don't give two flying fucks. Voting with your wallet doesn't actually work. People who believe in the voting with your wallet thing are actually delusional, because voting with your wallet only works if everybody is on the same page. But they are not. Because in a system where voting with your wallet works, everybody's vote would be calculated equally. But if a couple MTG finance bros decide that a set of Magic the Gathering product is going to go through the roof and to the moon, then their wallets, which are bigger and can therefore cast more votes, will have a higher weight than you and every other individual person who think voting with your wallet will do anything at all. Voting with your wallet doesn't do shit, because you need both the average Magic the Gathering consumer and the whales and scalpers all on the same page. Because the whales and scalpers get more votes, because they have more money to cast more votes, and they always will have more money to cast more votes, because that is how the system works. I don't think we, as Magic players, should be okay with Modern costing a couple of car payments. I don't think we should be okay with Modern costing a couple of mortgage payments in order to get a singular deck. There are very few card games that manage with decks of those prices. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a similar problem. I don't play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore, but I do recognize that it has a similar problem. This is not just a Magic the Gathering issue. Pokemon somehow manages to circumvent this problem. I don't know what magic tomfoolery they use to circumvent this problem, but they do. I also know Weiss circumvents this problem. I don't know what magic tomfoolery they use to circumvent it as well. And Magic used to circumvent this problem. Magic used to not be this expensive, and you can make comments about inflation and everything on the side as well. I'm sorry, none of it justifies prices like this. No conversation about inflation will justify $1,000 for a deck of Magic the Gathering cards. No amount of inflation conversation is going to justify $150 for a pre-constructed deck. $400 if you have the testicles to buy the one that's going to be nothing but Pringles after you purchase it. You know, that one right there. I'm just going to move myself over here so you can see that the price of this, if you want to get the Pringle edition, well, I guess I'm going to have to show it this way, because apparently technical issues are what they are when you're stuck using mobile internet. But looking at the tech price right here, $500. $500. Do you think you're going to get $500 of enjoyment out of that Pringled poorly printed deck. Because if it's going to be a collector's edition deck, everything's going to be foily, and everything is going to be curled, pringled, and basically warped. Because that's what happens every time they print something like this. Is it going to be worth that? These are Wizards of the Coast way of basically saying, screw you, you're a sheep, you'll buy anything. And again, this is coming from somebody, me, who adores Magic the Gathering. I want Wizards of the Coast to do better by the customer. I want LGSs to do better by the customers. I want Magic the Gathering players to be able to play this card game with their friends, and not just Commander. I miss Paper Standard. I miss Paper Modern. I miss Paper Pioneer. But more and more, it's getting hard to get people to actually play these other formats because there is no solid entry point for these formats for newer players. To a lesser degree, there is Pioneer, but as the Pioneer metagame shifts and evolves, the older Pioneer precons will cease being good entry points for Pioneer players. And Modern currently has no good entry point. Am I just going to hand you Mono Red Burn or all of the cheap parts of an Affinity deck and hope to God this is enough to pilot you through a tournament? No, that's not a fair thing to request of anybody trying to get into a card game. It's not. Telling people that the floor to play one of the best and most fun formats, not just Commander, but I truly believe Modern is a wonderfully fun format to play. To tell somebody, hey, if you want to play Modern, you need to fork out 4 figures. If you want to play Pioneer, you need to fork out $400 to $600. If you want to play Standard, you need to fork out $200 to $300 and be upset when that money goes down the drain, because that's what happens with Standard and Rotation. It's very hard to convince other Magic the Gathering players that they should play these formats when Commander can be played for $15, $20, or $25. You can play Commander with a precon easily, but you can't do that with Modern. You can't do it very well with Pioneer, and you most certainly can't do it when the Commander precon that is being given out is $500 for the shiny one that's not going to be very playable, and $150 for the other one. That's stupid. That price is stupid. Paying that price is stupid. Nothing justifies that price. Nothing will ever justify that price. If you decide that you want to purchase one of those things at that price, I can't stop you. Again, voting with your wallet is not something that functionally works here, unless everybody is on the same page. But we won't be on the same page. We never will be on the same page. Scalpers are going to buy this. Finance bros are going to buy this. There are going to be people who spend money on it when they don't have the money to spend. And like I said, for God's sake, if you are buying this, please buy hygiene products as well. I have been in enough card shops where somebody decided that they just didn't feel like bathing in the last week. We all have to spend time with you. If you're gonna spend $160 on this, I assume you can afford some speed stick. But anyway, that's my rant on whatever the hell this is. I don't even know who to blame here. Wizards of the Coast, the LGSs that all together seem to have lost their brain cells, the player base that seems to want to just burn all of their money away and then effectively make the game worse and worse every single year in terms of prices because they're just willing to do that? I don't know. But that all said, this is a very ranty video. That all said, thank you for listening to whatever the hell this rant was. If it resonated with you, awesome. If it didn't, then I'm sure you're already typing into the comment section below. As always, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here. And they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Nabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you. Sagittarius, I'm not saying that part. And Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.